Welcome to Story Planet, where we bring you relaxing tales to help you unwind. Tonight's story is Tides and Tea in Cornwall. So, settle in, get cozy, and let yourself be carried away to the peaceful shores of Cornwall, where gentle waves, fragrant teas, and timeless memories await. Now, let's begin. The train ride to Cornwall felt like a dream Helen had nurtured for years. As the city disappeared behind her and rolling hills took its place, she sensed her shoulders relax. The countryside began to unfurl like a gentle watercolor, with fields tinged by the soft glow of late afternoon. She felt a swell of excitement rise as the train wound past stone cottages and sleepy villages, each one seeming to promise a life of simple beauty. Helen's heart skipped a beat when the train finally slowed. A faint but constant hum of waves filled the air, and the sea stretched out in the distance like a vast promise of peace. She stepped off the train and took her first breath of the salty air. The coolness hit her face, mingling with the earthy scents of lavender and wildflowers, and she closed her eyes, feeling the calm settle over her like a well-worn shawl. Just ahead stood the Sea Glass Inn, a quaint stone building softened by time and framed by lush lavender bushes. The inn's charm radiated from its aged walls, and she imagined the many travelers who must have rested here, their stories woven into the very foundation of the place. As she approached, the door opened, and a woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair stepped out, her face breaking into a smile as she spotted Helen. "Welcome, dear," she said, her voice as warm as the sea air. "You must be Helen. I'm Mabel, and I've got a pot of tea just waiting for you inside." The inn was cozy, filled with the comforting scent of lavender and the gentle warmth of a crackling fire. Shelves lined with well-loved books stretched across the walls, and each corner of the room seemed to hold a secret or two. Mabel led Helen to a small table by the hearth, where a delicate porcelain teapot sat waiting alongside a single teacup. Helen lifted the cup to her lips, inhaling the calming aroma of chamomile and lavender, feeling the tension of city life melt away with each sip. "My grandmother taught me this blend," Mabel said, settling down across from Helen with her own cup. "She always said a good cup of tea can make anyone feel at home." Helen smiled, feeling the warmth seep into her bones. The crackling fire cast a soft glow around the room, illuminating shelves filled with worn spines and trinkets collected over the years. As they sipped their tea, Mabel began to share stories about the inn's history. She spoke of fishermen who had once sought refuge within these walls, of travelers who had passed through, leaving pieces of their hearts behind. Her voice was soothing, each word a note in a lullaby that filled the room with a sense of timelessness. That night, as Helen lay in bed, the sound of waves rolling against the shore outside her window lulled her into a deep sleep. She drifted off with a sense of calm she hadn't felt in years, her dreams filled with images of soft sands and distant horizons. The next morning, Helen rose early, drawn by a quiet excitement. She dressed quickly and stepped outside, the cool morning air wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. The village was still asleep, its rooftops barely illuminated by the first light of dawn. She made her way to the beach, the sand cool beneath her feet, grounding her in the present moment. As she walked along the shore, the only sounds were the gentle crash of waves and the occasional call of a distant seabird. Lost in the tranquility, she almost didn't notice the elderly man crouched by the water, carefully collecting driftwood. His movements were unhurried, each piece of wood a small treasure. "Good morning," she called, her voice blending with the murmur of the sea. The man looked up, a kind smile spreading across his face. "Morning to you," he replied, his accent a gentle reminder of Cornwall's own rhythm. "Name's Albert, just gathering some wood for my fire." They exchanged pleasantries, and Albert began to share stories about the coast. He pointed to small hidden coves and paths known only to locals. His eyes sparkled with the joy of someone who had spent a lifetime by the sea. "If you follow that path over there," he said, gesturing to a winding trail that led up the cliffside, "you'll find the best view of the coast. It's a bit of a secret, only for those who take the time to look." Helen thanked him, feeling as though she had been given a gift. She continued her walk, letting the morning light and the gentle rhythm of the waves fill her with peace. Later that morning, following Albert's advice, Helen found herself standing before a small tea shop tucked beneath a stone archway. The sign above the door swayed in the breeze, inviting her inside. As she stepped in, the warm air enveloped her, filled with the scent of tea leaves and herbs mingling with a faint hint of seaweed. It was a scent that felt grounding, connecting her to the earth and sea. A young woman with a welcoming smile approached her. "Good morning. I'm Lucy. I think I've got just the tea for a morning like this." Helen ordered a blend Lucy called the Sea's Whisper, crafted from coastal herbs and a touch of seaweed. As she took her first sip, the flavors were subtle and deep, reminiscent of ocean breezes and the quiet strength of the cliffs. Lucy joined her at the table, sharing stories about the inspiration behind each blend, her love for the craft evident in every word. "Each tea is meant to capture a moment," Lucy explained, "a mood or a memory of this coast. I like to think of them as little pieces of Cornwall, bottled up for anyone to carry with them." Helen nodded, savoring her tea and the sense of belonging it seemed to bring with it. She felt as though Cornwall were revealing itself to her in layers, each moment a new thread in the fabric of her journey. As the days passed, Helen became a familiar face in the village, exchanging smiles and greetings with each person she met. Each morning, she visited the bakery, where a kind woman named Nora handed her a warm loaf of bread, its crust dusted with flour and fragrant from the oven. Nora often shared stories of her mother's recipes, of bread baked with love and tradition, and each story filled Helen with a sense of comfort that stayed with her long after she left. On her way to the shore, Helen would stop by the fishmonger's, where a jovial man in a salt-streaked hat always had a tale to share about his early morning catches. His voice was filled with laughter as he described the thrill of casting his nets into the waves, the bracing chill of dawn still lingering in his memory. Each encounter wove Helen deeper into the fabric of village life, the faces and voices becoming part of her own story. One evening, a group of villagers invited Helen to join them for a bonfire on the beach. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of lavender and rose, laughter filled the air. Helen sat close to the warmth of the fire, listening to each person share pieces of their lives, feeling the camaraderie of a community that had welcomed her as one of their own. She felt as if she were part of something timeless, a gentle rhythm of life that resonated within her, filling her heart with a quiet joy. On quieter afternoons, Helen found solace in a small bookshop run by Eliza, a gentle soul with a deep love for poetry. Eliza introduced her to a circle of villagers who gathered each week to share poems inspired by the beauty around them. The shop was cozy, filled with the scent of old paper and fresh tea, and the words spoken there seemed to linger in the air, wrapping around Helen like a warm embrace. One evening, under the soft glow of lanterns, Helen joined the gathering, listening as they read verses about the sea and cliffs, the rugged beauty of Cornwall captured in each line. Inspired, she began to jot down her own reflections in a notebook, trying to capture the feelings that Cornwall stirred within her. When it was her turn to read, she felt a flicker of nerves, but as she spoke, her voice grew steady. She poured her gratitude into her words, describing the sea as a quiet teacher, its waves as a language that only the heart understands. As she finished, the gentle applause of her listeners wrapped around her, making her feel as though she had truly found her voice, a voice that echoed with the rhythm of the sea. One misty morning, Albert invited Helen for a boat ride along the coast. The world felt hushed as she joined him by the shore, the fog wrapping around them like a soft blanket. The boat rocked gently as they set off, its wooden frame creaking as they drifted through the mist, the coastline appearing and disappearing like a dream. Albert pointed out hidden coves, each with its own story, and ancient carvings etched into the rocks, remnants of Cornwall's history. Helen felt a quiet reverence settle over her, as though she were glimpsing secrets long kept by the sea, treasures hidden in plain sight for those who looked closely enough. The gentle rocking of the boat lulled her into a deep peace, the sound of the waves blending with her thoughts. She felt connected to the landscape in a way that transcended words, as if Cornwall had woven itself into her very soul. One evening, the village held its annual lantern festival, a celebration of light and stars that filled the air with a sense of magic. Mabel invited Helen to join her on the beach, where villagers gathered with lanterns in hand, each one adorned with small decorations, symbols of personal wishes, hopes, and dreams. As dusk settled over the village, the lanterns were lit, casting a warm, golden glow that illuminated each face. Helen felt a thrill of excitement as she whispered her own wish to her lantern, watching as it drifted away, carried by the breeze. She imagined her wish mingling with the others, joining the shared dreams of those around her. The sight of the lanterns floating on the water, their light mirrored by the stars above, filled her with a profound sense of peace. She felt as if she had become part of something ancient and beautiful, a shared dream that connected each heart, each soul, in the quiet beauty of the night. On her last day, Helen took a final walk through the village, bidding farewell to each place she had come to love. She visited Lucy at the tea shop, who gifted her a small pouch of the sea's whisper, a reminder of the ocean's depths and the warmth of friendship. At the bakery, Nora handed her a warm loaf and a small wildflower, a token of the memories they had shared. Finally, Helen made her way to the shore, letting the sound of the waves wash over her one last time. She felt the pull of the sea, a quiet rhythm that had become part of her own, a steady beat that filled her with a sense of belonging. As she gazed at the horizon, she made a silent promise to return, knowing that Cornwall would always hold a piece of her heart, a place she could return to, no matter where life led her. As the train pulled away, Helen watched the cliffs and waves recede into the distance, each memory a treasured piece of her soul. She realized that Cornwall had gifted her something precious, a deep peace that would guide her through life. She closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her like the tide, grateful for the beauty, simplicity, and stillness Cornwall had shown her. Thank you for joining us on Story Planet. If you felt like you were right there on Cornwall's shores, with the soft whisper of waves and the warmth of tea, consider giving a thumbs up. And if this story brought you peace and calm, feel free to share it with friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe for daily stories from Story Planet, offering serene escapes every day. Wishing you a peaceful night and a relaxed sleep, sweet dreams.